high-stakes battle for dominance is unfolding in space. Russia and China, armed with hypersonic missiles and powerful lasers, are constantly targeting America's satellites, which keep watch over the Earth from orbit. In response, the U.S. has made a bold countermove, launching a network of satellites designed to detect any threat headed towards Earth. But they didn't stop there. The U.S. has introduced a game-changing weapon that's sending ripples through the stars. Could this be the ultimate space defense? Or are we racing toward a space arms race with no turning back, risking Earth's safety in the process? Join us as we explore the U.S. testing its most dangerous space hypersonic weapon. The United States, Russia, and China for the longest of time have been engaged in a high-tech rivalry that's pushing the boundaries of military technology. This space-based contest involves advanced satellites and incredibly fast missiles, with each country trying to gain an edge over the others. Every day, without most people knowing, Russia and China are testing America's defenses in space. They're not using traditional weapons, but rather sophisticated electronic systems that can interfere with satellites. These satellites are crucial for the U.S. military, helping with everything from communication to navigation. By disrupting these orbital devices, Russia and China hope to weaken America's ability to respond to threats quickly and effectively. Both Russia and China have also been working on a new type of weapon called hypersonic missiles. These missiles are incredibly fast, traveling at more than 5 times the speed of sound. To put that in perspective, they could cross the Atlantic Ocean in about 30 minutes. What makes them particularly dangerous is their ability to change direction mid-flight, making them very hard to track and intercept with current defense systems. Russia recently used one of these hypersonic weapons, called the Kinzhal, in Ukraine. This was the first time such a weapon has been used in actual combat. The Kinzhal, which means dagger in Russian, can be launched from an aircraft and is said to be virtually impossible to stop with current technology. Its use in Ukraine showed that Russia is willing to deploy these advanced weapons, raising concerns about future conflicts. As tensions rise, the United States is not sitting idle. The country is developing its own hypersonic weapons and working on new ways to detect and intercept those of other nations. This includes creating a network of satellites specifically designed to track hypersonic missiles. The race to dominate space and develop unstoppable weapons continues, with each country pushing the limits of technology in an effort to stay ahead. As this competition unfolds, it's clear that space will play an increasingly important role in national security for years to come. As tensions grow in space, countries are developing more advanced weapons to stay ahead. While Russia has already used its hypersonic missile in combat, China has been quietly working on an even more sophisticated weapon. This new development has caught the attention of military experts worldwide and raised concerns about the future of global security. China's latest creation is called the Fractional Orbital Bombardment System, or FOBs for short. This weapon is a significant step beyond typical hypersonic missiles. The FOBs is a nuclear-capable missile that can travel into low Earth orbit, circle the planet, and then dive down to hit its target anywhere on Earth. What makes it special is its combination of long range, incredible speed, and the ability to approach from unexpected directions. To understand how the FOBs works, imagine a space shuttle carrying a powerful weapon instead of astronauts. Once launched, it can orbit Earth like a satellite, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. When it's ready, the FOBs can leave orbit and plummet towards its target at an astonishing speed of Mach 27. That's 27 times the speed of sound. This is about 5 times faster than other hypersonic weapons, making it extremely difficult to detect and intercept. The FOBs has several advantages over traditional intercontinental ballistic missiles. First, it can reach any point on Earth, giving it a truly global range. Second, it can approach from any direction, not just the expected flight paths of normal missiles. This unpredictability makes it much harder for countries to defend against. Finally, because of its speed and ability to maneuver, the FOBS can potentially hit its target at least 10 minutes faster than an ICBM. What worries defense experts most is the FOB's ability to outsmart current missile defense systems. Its high speed, agility, and intelligence allow it to dodge attempts to shoot it down. This means that countries might only have a few minutes to react if they detect a FOBS heading their way. The weapon's development has sparked a new urgency in updating global defense strategies, especially in the United States. As countries race to create both better weapons and better defenses, the balance of power in space continues to shift, making the need for international cooperation and dialogue more important than ever. As China and Russia push forward with advanced weapons like the FOBS, the United States isn't standing still. Recognizing the growing threats in space, America has been working on its own high-tech solution. Instead of developing a single superweapon, the U.S. is taking a different approach, one that involves hundreds of eyes watching from above. The U.S. Space Development Agency is leading an ambitious project to create a network of satellites that can track hypersonic weapons and other threats from space. This project, part of the National Defense Space Architecture, is like building a protective shield around Earth. In 2022, the SDA took a big step forward by awarding $1.3 billion in contracts to two companies, L3 Harris Technologies and Northrop Grumman, to build 28 special satellites. These satellites, scheduled for launch in 2025, are just the beginning of a much larger plan. The National Defense Space Architecture has two main parts: the transport layer and the tracking layer. The transport layer is like a cosmic internet, connecting military units all over the world. When it's finished, it will have between 300 and 500 satellites orbiting Earth. These satellites will work together to make sure that 95% of the planet always has at least two satellites in view, with 99% having at least one. This means that no matter where U.S. forces are, they'll always have a reliable way to communicate and share information. The tracking layer is where the real magic happens. These satellites are designed to spot and follow advanced missiles, including the tricky hypersonic ones that worry defense experts so much. They use special sensors and smart computer programs to detect threats quickly and accurately. The 28 satellites being built now are part of this tracking layer. They'll be launched in groups of 7, each placed in a different orbit around Earth's poles. This arrangement lets them see the whole planet, constantly watching for any signs of danger. What makes this new system special is its approach to defense. Instead of relying on a few big, expensive satellites, the U.S. is creating a network of many smaller ones. This strategy has several advantages. First, it's harder for enemies to knock out the entire system. Even if they destroy a few satellites, many others remain to keep watch. Second, the network can be updated more easily, with new satellites added as technology improves. Lastly, by spreading out the job among many satellites, each one can be simpler and cheaper to build and launch. This project represents a big change in how the U.S. thinks about space defense. Just a few years ago, military leaders were calling for updates to the old satellite systems. Now, with support from Congress and all branches of the military, the country is racing to build this new space-based defense network. The goal is to have a system that can spot threats quickly, share information instantly, and help defend against even the fastest and most advanced weapons. As impressive as this project sounds, it's important to remember that it's still a work in progress. The first batch of satellites won't launch until 2025, and it will take years to get the full network up and running. Meanwhile, other countries are continuing to develop their own space technologies. The race to control and defend space is far from over, and new challenges are sure to arise. Despite these challenges, the U.S. Space Defense Project shows how technology is changing the way countries think about security. In the past, defense meant building walls or training soldiers. Now, it involves complex networks of satellites, advanced sensors, and lightning-fast communication systems. As we move further into the 21st century, the ability to use and protect space assets may become just as important as traditional military strength. For everyday people, this space race might seem far removed from daily life, but the technologies being developed have the potential to affect us all. The same satellite networks that watch for missiles could also help improve weather forecasting, internet access, and navigation systems. As countries invest more in space technology, we may see benefits in areas far beyond defense. In the end, the U.S. response to space-based threats highlights an important truth. In today's world, security isn't just about having the biggest weapons. It's about being smart, adaptable, and able to see what's coming before it arrives. By creating a network of watchful satellites, the United States is aiming to do just that, keeping an eye on the whole world to help keep it safe. As the United States works on its space-based defense network, other countries are developing ways to disrupt or destroy satellites. These anti-satellite technologies are becoming a major concern in the ongoing space competition. Let's take a look at what Russia and China are doing in this area. Russia has been working on a project called Kalina at its Krona space facility. This project involves building a powerful laser system designed to interfere with enemy satellites. Unlike some weapons that physically destroy targets, Kalina aims to blind satellites by damaging their optical sensors. It's like shining a super bright flashlight into someone's eyes, but on a much larger scale. The laser is so powerful that it can permanently damage the delicate cameras and sensors that satellites use to observe Earth. What makes Kalina special is its precision. The system uses advanced tracking technology and something called adaptive optics to aim the laser accurately, even through Earth's atmosphere. It can measure how much laser light bounces back from its target, helping it pinpoint the most vulnerable parts of a satellite. This level of accuracy makes Kalina a serious threat to space-based systems that many countries rely on for communication, navigation, and reconnaissance. While Russia focuses on lasers, China is exploring a different approach to dealing with satellites. Chinese researchers have been studying ways to disable or destroy entire satellite networks, with a particular interest in SpaceX's Starlink system. Starlink is a large group of small satellites that provide internet access around the world. The Chinese military sees Starlink as a potential threat because it could be used to support U.S. military operations. China's strategy involves both soft kill and hard kill methods. Soft kill techniques might include jamming satellite signals or using cyber attacks to take control of satellites. Hard kill methods are more direct and could involve physical destruction of satellites using missiles or other weapons. By targeting satellite networks like Starlink, China hopes to disrupt the communication and data sharing capabilities of potential adversaries. These developments in anti-satellite technologies highlight the growing importance of space in national security. As countries become more reliant on satellites for various purposes, the ability to protect these assets or threaten those of rivals becomes crucial. This has led to increased investment in both defensive systems, like the U.S. satellite network, and offensive capabilities, like Russia's Kalina laser. The challenge for the international community is to find ways to use space peacefully and prevent conflicts from extending beyond Earth's atmosphere. As countries develop new ways to attack and defend satellites, it's clear that space is becoming a critical area for national security. This shift is ushering in a new era of space-based warfare, where the battles of the future may be fought far above Earth's surface. The idea of war in space might sound like science fiction, but it's becoming more real every day. Countries are now treating space as a domain for military activities, just like land, sea, and air. This means they're developing strategies and technologies specifically for operating in space. The US, Russia, and China are leading this charge. but other countries are also getting involved. One of the biggest changes in this new era is the focus on protecting space assets. Satellites have become crucial for everything from communication and navigation to weather forecasting and spying. Losing these satellites could seriously hurt a country's ability to function, both in peacetime and during conflicts. That's why we're seeing a race to develop better ways to defend satellites and create backup systems in case some are destroyed. At the same time, countries are working on weapons that can disable or destroy enemy satellites. These range from cyber attacks that can take control of satellites to physical weapons like lasers and missiles. Some countries are even exploring ways to use satellites themselves as weapons, potentially able to attack targets on Earth or other satellites in space. This new focus on space warfare is changing how militaries operate. Countries are creating special space forces and updating their training to include space-based scenarios. They're also investing in new technologies like artificial intelligence and quantum computing to gain an edge in space. As this trend continues, we may see more countries joining the space race, leading to new alliances and rivalries based on space capabilities. The rise of space-based warfare raises important questions for the future. How can countries protect their space assets without starting an arms race in space? Is it possible to create international rules for military activities in space? What are the risks of space debris from destroyed satellites? As we move forward, finding answers to these questions will be crucial for maintaining peace and security, both on Earth and in the vastness of space above us. As we enter this new era of space-based warfare, it's important to understand that the situation is more complex than just countries developing new weapons. Many factors at play affect how space is used and protected. Let's explore some of these important issues that shape the future of space activities. One of the biggest challenges in space is balancing military and civilian uses. Back in 1967, countries around the world signed the Outer Space Treaty. This agreement says that space should be used peacefully and that no one can put weapons of mass destruction in orbit. However, many technologies used in space can serve both peaceful and military purposes. For example, the same satellites that help farmers predict weather can also be used by militaries to plan operations. This makes it tricky to decide what should be allowed in space. Another major concern is space junk, also known as space debris. Every time a country tests an anti-satellite weapon, or even when satellites accidentally collide with each other, thousands of fragments are left floating in Earth's orbit. These pieces of debris vary in size, from tiny paint chips to entire chunks of defunct satellites, but all of them pose a serious threat. Even the smallest fragments, traveling at high speeds, can puncture spacecraft, damage satellites, or endanger astronauts aboard missions. This space trash accumulates over time, increasing the likelihood of future collisions in what's known as the Kessler syndrome, a scenario where the density of debris becomes so great that it triggers a cascade of collisions, creating even more debris. If we don't manage this growing problem, launching new satellites or spacecraft could become too dangerous. The space environment we depend on for exploration and technology could turn into a minefield. This isn't just a concern for space agencies or military powers. It's a global issue. Satellites are essential to everyday life, powering our GPS systems, providing accurate weather forecasts, and keeping us connected through the internet. Space debris could cripple these services, affecting everything from global communications to air travel safety and even disaster management efforts. It's not just the big players like the US, Russia, and China involved in space anymore. Countries like India, Japan, and Israel are developing their own space programs. Private companies are also getting into the game, launching satellites and even planning space tourism. This means there are more voices and interests to consider when it comes to using space. It also raises questions about who is responsible for protecting space assets and cleaning up space junk. As space becomes increasingly critical for both military and civilian purposes, countries are grappling with a range of new challenges. One of the primary concerns is the protection of satellites, which are vital for national security, communication, and navigation. These satellites are vulnerable not only to physical threats like anti-satellite missiles, but also to cyber attacks. Hackers could potentially target satellite systems, disrupting essential services such as GPS, internet connectivity, and even military communications. As nations rely more heavily on space-based technology, safeguarding these assets from cyber threats has become a top priority. In addition to security concerns, there is growing awareness about the environmental impact of space activities. Each rocket launch leaves a footprint, not only in orbit but also in Earth's atmosphere. Scientists are raising alarms about the long-term effects of frequent launches, suggesting that the chemicals released during liftoffs could harm the ozone layer and contribute to air pollution. The emissions from rocket engines, particularly those using solid fuels, can release harmful substances like chlorine and soot, which may degrade the atmosphere over time. Furthermore, countries must also consider the implications of their actions in space on the environment beyond our planet. Satellites, once obsolete, contribute to the growing issue of space debris, and the remnants of past missions remain a potential hazard for future space exploration. As the number of spacefaring nations and private companies launching satellites increases, the need for responsible, sustainable practices in space becomes even more pressing. Without careful management, the very environment we depend on for exploration and technological advancement could be at risk. Despite these challenges, there are still examples of countries working together in space. The International Space Station is a great example, with astronauts from different countries living and working together. As we move forward, finding ways to cooperate in space might be just as important as developing new technologies. By working together, countries might be able to solve problems like space junk and create rules that keep space safe for everyone to use. Thanks for watching. While you are still here, click on the link on your screen to check out another of our videos. See you there.